I'll wait for 2 more minutes and start the class. Good evening and welcome to week 4 of the TA session of Structural Analysis 1 taught by Professor Amit Shaw. I am Trisha Chakraborty, one of the course teaching assistants. I am a PhD student at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. I'll start with a brief recap of the previous 3 weeks. In week 1, we looked at the types of internal forces, bending moment, shear force, axial force, and torsional moment. Common classification of elements. There are three types: truss element, beam element, and frame element. Truss elements are the are consistent comprised of members which can only take axial force, so it can be tension or compression, and they are constructed such that those members are all pin jointed. So that is how the load transfer mechanism works, only through axial forces. And for beams and frames are not physically different in any way. We call it a beam when we only have transverse loading, so it is only under bending moment or shear force. In bending moment and shear force, the two come in pairs. And if there is also an axial force, then we will call it a frame element. Will take all three types of forces. Torsion, even though we study torsion in solid mechanics course, we generally do not consider torsion in this structural analysis course, because when we design a building or when we design any structure, we do not want any torsion to be developed. So if it develops, it is our duty to remove the torsion somehow by increasing the cross sectional area of the cross sectional area, by making this improving the yield strength of the material. While bending moment, shear force, and axial force, we accept that my structural elements are going to undergo these kind of forces, we have to design it to withstand it. Torsion we eliminate even before it can develop. So these are the four types of forces and how they are related to the classification of elements. And then there are classification of boundary conditions, and all of these which we are talking about are somewhat idealized because all of these are somewhat idealized because in structure analysis course we work with ideal structures. For example, we work with 2D structures, while in the real world everything is three dimensional. But even when we idealize these elements, boundary conditions and loads, and we learn how to analyze them, they can be extrapolated into real world structures as well. So idealized boundary conditions are roller support, hinge support, fixed support, internal hills, and so on. Then there is a concept called structural indeterminacy, which says how redundant the structure is basically. So as an indeterminate structure is safer, it has a more number of reactions than the equations of equilibrium. So even if one or two support fails, it will still stand, while a determinate structure is just about safe. So even if one support fails, the structure will collapse. And if you have negative indeterminacy, that means it is an unstable structure. So suppose a beam on two rollers. There are three equations of equilibrium, and two rollers will give two support reactions. So the indeterminacy is -1. So if you provide a tiny horizontal force, the beam will move. It will undergo rigid body motion. So that is instability. So the determinacy has to be zero or more than that. And in real world structures, again, it is always more than one. It is a lot more than one. The structures are heavily indeterminate, but why do we start with determinate structures here? Because again, it is easier to calculate. We can just calculate by hand and find out the support reactions because the number of equations and unknowns is same. And if to analyze indeterminate structures, we need some other material properties, which also we will look into in this course. So week 7 onwards we look into indeterminate structures. And in first week, we looked at bending moment and shear force diagrams in beams. So bending moment and shear force are the responses induced in a beam when it undergoes loading. And in week 2, we saw idealization of trusses, stability of trusses, and solving member forces in a truss. So these member forces, as I said, will be either tension or compression. So axial forces are are the force type response induced in a truss, and BMD and SFD are the force type responses induced in a beam. So now that we have two methods, method of joints and sections. Those are a method of joint is useful when you have to solve the whole truss. So you have to go from joint to joint, solving all the members in between. Solving a member means that you are solving the member force. And method of section is when you are cutting a section so that you only need the member force in one or two members, you can cut a section so that you can get those member forces as a shortcut. Now, week 1 and week 2 have this thing in common, this bending moment shear force diagram and solving member forces in truss. They both deal with the force or the stress type responses. And there is another type of response which is the strain type or displacement type response induced in a structure. So in week 3, what did we study? Principle of virtual work, unit load method to determine displacements in trusses. So display by displacement in truss we mean the nodal displacements. What is the horizontal and vertical displacement or the net displacement at each node of the truss. And from week 1 and 2 were about the force type responses. Week 3 and now week 4 is about the displacement type response. So we will look at deflection of beams. So now in a truss, since trusses only the kind of structure which a truss has, it has members, all of them joined by pins, and all of them only undergo axial force. So the only displacement we are concerned about is how much each of the nodes displace. If we know that, we know the entire deformed shape of the truss. If you imagine you have a triangle, and you know that even in the triangle is a truss, and you know how much all three corners of the triangle have displaced, then you can draw the new deformed shape of the truss entirely. Similarly, if I have a beam, what do I need to know the complete deformed shape? I need the deflection profile. The beam is like this. This is the length of the beam. So along the length of the beam, I need to find the function of deflection, so I can find out the deflection at any given cross section. So generally, this deflection is a function of x, where x goes from 0 to L, length of beam. So there are several methods for doing that: elastic curve equation method, moment area method, and next week we'll look at the conjugate beam method. So these three are all method, all different approaches, but they will all give you the same answer. So here in to find out displacement in trusses, we looked at principle of virtual work. That was the method. Unit load method. Sorry, principle of virtual work is the basis, and unit load method is the name of the method to determine displacement in trusses. And to find deflection of beams, we will look at three different methods. So let's start with the conjugate beam method in week 5. Let's start with some terminologies in beam theory. Neutral surface. A beam is formed by many fibers aligned longitudinally like this. So imagine this line. This is the longitudinal direction along the length. So imagine it's a lot of fibers stacked on top of each other under action of downward transverse load. The fibers near the top of the beam contract, whereas the fibers near the bottom of the beam extend. You have to visualize this. It is very important to visualize things in civil engineering. So if you have a beam and it has this kind of loading, it is bending in a manner like this. You can see that the, the top fibers are undergoing compression somehow, and the bottom fibers are under tension. So these are elongating and these are shortening. So there will be one plane in between somewhere here where there is neither any tension nor any compression. So that means the plane where the fibers of the beam do not change their length, that is called the neutral surface. So why is it a surface? Because a beam is like this. It has a depth, it has a length, and it also has a cross section like this. So there is a neutral surface somewhere if cutting through the beam, which is neither undergoing tension or not compression, and all the fibers on top of it are undergoing compression and getting shortened, and all the fibers below it are undergoing tension and getting elongated. The neutral axis is the axis of the beam is the interaction of the neutral surface and the longitudinal symmetry. So the axis is just when you basically ignore the cross section, when you ignore the width, and when you just pretend the beam is a 2D structure, then the line here is the neutral axis. This is a neutral axis. You see here we have drawn it in a 3D way. Here we are just idealizing it as a 2D thing. And deflection curve is when the beam is loaded, the neutral axis or surface deforms into a curve which is called a deflection curve or elastic curve. So basically, the neutral axis was initially a straight line like this. Then under loading, it got deflected like this. Its length did not change, but it got deflected somewhat. So that deflection profile is the deflection curve or the elastic curve. Then there is Euler-Bernoulli beam theory is an idealized theory to explain behavior of beams. So some of these assumptions you can just know theoretically. We won't directly apply these in the questions. So you just need to know them. Need to know the theory in case you have a theoretical question in an exam, or some MCQ question in exams like GATE might also be asked. The beam section is infinitely rigid in its own plane. According to this assumption, there is no deformation in the plane of the cross section. The cross section of the beam remains plane to the deformed axis of the beam, and the cross section of the beam also remains normal to the deformed axis of the beam. This from this diagram you can see this. Now we are going to move into this first method that we talked about, the elastic curve equation method. That means we are directly going to go from the first principles, and so now, what is the first principle? The thing about any physical phenomenon is that they are governed by a differential equation. Any physical phenomenon, climate change, or the deformation of any structure, the fluid motion, anything. So the governing differential equation of a beam is that m is equal to minus ei d2w dx square. Now, what do this notation mean? M is the bending moment, Q is the shear. Okay, this is and another equation, another form of the same equation is if you take the double derivative of both sides, you will get ei d to the d4 dw dx4 is qx. M is bending moment, Q is shear force. W is the transverse or vertical deflection. X is the distance along the beam, along the axis of the beam. So M, Q, and W, all three are functions of X, because we know that bending moment, shear force, and deflection, all of it vary along the length of the beam. E is Young's modulus, which is a material property. I is second moment of area, which is a geometric property. M, Q, and W vary along the axis of the beam, so they are functions of X. Compatibility or continuity condition. Now, when you need to know some basic things when you are trying to find out the deflection curve. Just 1 second. So when we are trying to find out the deflected profile of the beam, we need to keep some things in mind, some criteria that have to be fulfilled. They are called the compatibility or continuity equations. So they are equations essential for solving indeterminate structures considering the displacement equilibrium of the structure. They need to be satisfied for determinate structures as well. Concept is at a single point in the surface there cannot be more than one displacement, that is horizontal, vertical or rotational. So from you come from this side, you come from that side, there has to be a continuity, so that there cannot be a jump obviously in the middle of a beam, otherwise there will be which is not allowed. So displace displacement at any point on the beam must be the same for all time, and there can be no sudden changes in the displacement at any point. Like the bending moment diagram or the shear force diagram can have jumps, right? If we have a concentrated load at one point, the shear force diagram has a jump. If we have a concentrated moment, the bending moment diagram can have a jump. But the deflected shape of a beam cannot have a jump because it is a physical phenomenon. It is the actual displacement. So if there is a jump in the displacement, that means the beam has broken or something, which is not acceptable. So these continuity compatibility conditions exist for finding out the deflected shape. Now let's look at examples. The cantilever beam is subjected to a couple moment m naught at its end. Determine the equation of the elastic curve. Ei is constant. So first we have to get the see. This is the equation, right? So I need the moment expression as function of x. So basically I need the bending moment diagram first. So the load tends to deflect the beam as shown here. Like if I have a moment, it is about to deflect like this. You can visualize. By inspection, the internal moment can be represented throughout the beam using a single x coordinate because there is no point load or there is no support condition in the middle of the beam. So you can just take x goes from 0 to L. From the free body diagram, with m acting in a positive direction, we have m equal to m naught. So if this is a bending moment, this is the bending moment diagram we are drawing. So we take a section, we take a distance x from the left end. This is m naught. See, since there is a moment m naught here, the support reaction has to be an m naught in the clockwise direction. And if you go and take any section which is x from the left end, there will be this moment will also be equal to m naught to preserve the equilibrium of this section. So the slope and elastic curve, applying the equation of this equation, ei d2, here it's set as represented as v, the vertical deflection, d2v dx squared is equal to m naught. So we integrate it once. You know integration from class 11 12. Ei dv dx is equal to m naught plus c1, that is a constant of integration. Then you are basically I want to find v it as function of x, so I have to keep integrating till I get v. Then eiv is equal to m naught x square by 2 plus c1x plus c2. I have two constants. Now to solve these constants, we have to apply the boundary condition. So what boundary conditions do I know here? I have a fixed support. So at a fixed support, I know that there can be no transverse deflection. So I know basically that at x equal to 0, v is also equal to 0. So I will put that in this equation. And for the fixed support, I also know that the rotation has to be 0, right? Because that is the definition of fixed support. There can be no displacement, there can be no rotation. And rotation here is basically v is the vertical deflection and dv dx is the slope or the rotation. So at x equal to 0, dv dx also has to be 0. These are the two boundary conditions I have automatically from the fixed support. So using boundary conditions, dv dx equal to 0 at x equal to 0 and v equal to 0 at x equal to 0. So what I do is I put the x equal to 0 in this equation and find out what's the value of c1. Then I put v equal to 0 and x equal to 0 in this equation and find out c2. Both of them turn out to be 0. So by substituting this equation, we get that the slope theta here is m naught x by ei. Theta is dv dx, okay, and v we get as m naught x square by 2 ei. So this is my deflection profile and my slope profile. So I know it as function of x. So for any given x, I can find out the deflection and the slope. This is the basic concept of how we solve. Now, of course, the more complicated the beam structure is, like if it has more a number of loadings, it has support reactions, point loads, then we have to separate these x just the way we did for bending moment diagram. But so long as you have the bending moment equation in a particular zone, you can easily find out the v as function of x by double integration. Now, if you want to find out the maximum slope and maximum deflection, we know that to find out the maximum slope, d theta dx should be 0. So d theta dx equal to 0, if you do that, you will find that at x equal to L, the slope is maximum, and which is equal to m naught L by ei. And to find out the maximum deflection, actually we have to do dv dx is 0, which effectively means theta equal to 0. So that is at x equal to L. So VA is m naught L square by 2 EI. The positive result for theta I indicates counterclockwise rotation, and positive result for VA indicates that VA is upward. Yeah, so now these are some practical values being applied. It's fine. Like mostly, if you, this was an algebraic kind of like numerical. Now, if you put the numerical values, you will see what kind of values come. But anyway, now we this is a beam with two fixed support, one fixed support, one roller support, and it has an overhang. So this is a simply supported beam with an overhang. So if I have to determine the displacement at c, yeah, so far we have only looked at the elastic equation method. So we have to find out the equation. So the beam deflects into into this shape. It has a load at the tip p. Using the free body diagram, we get the m1 in this zone as minus px x1 by 2. X1 is this part and x2 is the next zone. Like the first zone is x1, the second zone is x2. So m2 is minus p by 2 x2 plus 3p by 2 inside bracket x2 minus 2a. So here for x1 ranges from 0 to 2a in this part, and x2 ranges from 2a to 3a. Slope and elastic curve, now once you have the moment equations, you can just apply ei d2 v1 dx 1 square is equal to m1. So we put this here, we double integrate, and then again we do the same with m2. Now see, we have two constants for this, we have two constants for this, so we actually need four conditions. We need four extra conditions. So the four constants of integration are now the four constants of integration. How many equations do I have here? Basically, only have that v should be 0 at this point and v should be 0 at this point, at a and at b. Here I don't have any knowledge about the slope because fixed support, like only fixed support stops the rotation. This hinge support and roller support does not say anything about the slope. The beam is free to rotate. So apparently I just have two conditions right now, that v at a should be 0 and v at b should be 0. But I need four conditions. So what do we do? For the four constants of integration are determined using three boundary conditions. See, v1 equal to 0 at x1 equal to 0, v2 equal to 0 at x1 equal to 2a, and v2 equal to 0 at x2 equal to 2a, because this condition, the point b is part of both this equation and this equation. So I can use both of them to get two constant of integration separately. And the fourth condition, we get the continuity. So the continuity of slope at the roller requires dv1 dx1 equal to dv2 dx2 at x1 equal to x2 equal to 2a. So the continuity of displacement at b has been indirectly considered in the boundary conditions. Boundary condition, like the continuity means that the both the displacement and the slope has to be continuous. Since we have already said that v1 v2 equal to 0 for both the equations, we have already implemented that. So now the additional one which we have is that the slope should be equal from this side and from that side. So dv1 dx1 equal to dv2 dx2. Now when you solve all these four equations simultaneously, you will get c1 c2 c3 c4, and you put them, you get the displacement curve. Okay, this is a elaborate method. We start from the differential governing differential equation and solve the diffraction profile, and this is also relatively the least used method, because moment area method and conjugate beam method are based on these. See, the governing differential equation is the basic. All the methods which we can develop are based on it, but moment area and conjugate beam methods are easier and faster to apply. So generally, we use those. So we'll look at moment area method now. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So the first moment area theorem states the change in slope between any two points of the elastic curve equals to the area of the n by ei diagram between these two points. So theta a with respect to b, which basically means theta a minus theta b, is equal to integral a to b n by ei dx. This is the slope at. See, the slope at B here is, we have to draw a tangent and you have to see the angle it makes with the horizontal. So this is the slope at B, theta B. And for C, draw a tangent and see what angle it makes with the horizontal. This is theta C. So theta B minus theta C here will be the integral. There will be that you have the bending moment diagram. So you will take the portion of the bending moment diagram between B and C, and you will divide the entire magnitude by EI, and you have to take the integral. So area under the curve basically. And theorem 2 says that the vertical deviation of a point B on an elastic curve with respect to the tangent which is extended from another point C equals the moment of the area under the M by EI diagram between those two points B and C. This moment is computed about point B where the deviation from B to C is to be determined. So what this says is that B here, C has a slope which is C here has a tangent which I am drawing, and the vertical deviation of the point B on an elastic curve with respect to the tangent which is extended from another point C. So I extend the tangent from C, and I'm concerned about, like this theorem is concerned about this portion. So it is the deflection from the deflected point B to the tangent wherever it cuts it. When you draw a vertically down line, that is equal to moment of the area under the M by EI diagram between these two points. You have the bending moment diagram like before. You divide the magnitude by EI, and we have to find the moment of the diagram about the point B. So these are all geometric considerations. We will see when we look at the example. So TA with respect to TAB is m by EI into x dx integral a to b. So x here is the thing that implements the moment. So let's look at examples. Determine the deflection of C of the beam here. This is a hinge support, this is a roller support, so it is just a simply supported beam with the moment at the corner, moment at one end. We are required to find theta C, sorry, delta C. Delta is the deflection, theta is the angle. This is not necessarily the maximum deflection of the beam since the loading and hence the elastic curve are not symmetric. Indicated here the tangents at A and B and C. So so this is the diagram. This is the diagram. It has a deflection like this. This is the tangent at A, this is the tangent at B, and this is the tangent at C. It is not necessary that the tangent at C should be perpendicular, parallel to the horizontal. It can be anything because it is not a symmetric problem. Now, if TAB is determined, then this is a geometry. This is entirely a geometry problem now. This is the tangent at B. So this and A does not deflect downward since it has a fixed up it sorry a hinge support. So this is TA/B by our definition. And C, this is the deflected point of C. This is the tangent at B. So this is our TC/B by our definition. And what I want is delta C. Delta C is equal to here TA/B minus TC/B. So, and this quantity we are going to find by the second moment area theorem. So delta dash can be found from proportional triangles. One second. Yeah, sorry. We have TA/B. From that, then these are I can have this length like this theta delta C plus TC/B. So once we have TAAB, we can find this length because this is a similar triangle. So this triangle and this triangle are similar. So once we have that, then we need T that is named the delta dash here. So and then we have if we have TCB, then delta dash minus TCB will be delta C, which is what I need. So my first step is to find out TA/B. We apply moment theorem 2 to determine TA/B and TC/B. Here TAB is the moment of the M by EI diagram between A and B about point A. This is what the theorem states. So that is the moment diagram. The moment diagram here will be just this is the bending moment diagram. So the first step is to draw the bending moment diagram. Here there is a moment 5 applied, then here there is no applied moment, and if you do the free body diagram you will see it is just a straight line that goes to 0 at point B. And since we need the M by EI diagram, we divide this 5 by EI. So 5 by EI at midpoint C, this will be 2.5 by EI because this is a linearly reducing curve. So now what I need is I need the moment of this area about the point A. So I need the moment of this triangle about point A. So the area under the curve is half into 5 by EI into 24. So half into 24 into 5 by EI. And to find the moment, we have to multiply the area by the centroidal distance. So we know that the centroidal distance of a triangle from this point A is one third of 24, somewhere here. So one third of 24 into the area under the curve is equal to this. So this is TA/B, and TC/B is the moment of M by A diagram between B and C about C. So this is the moment of diagram between M by A diagram between B and C. I have to find it about C. So again I have to find out the area is half into 12 into 2.5 by EI. Half into 12 into 2.5 by EI, and I have to multiply it with this centroidal length, which is one third of 12 here. So one third of 12. So we get 60 here. And now once we have this TAB, I can find out the delta dash here. Now if delta dash by 12 equal to TAB by 24. That is what like I'm doing by similarity of triangles. So delta dash here is TAB by 2. So delta dash is this by 2, half of 480 by EI minus 60 EI. That is my delta C here. So it is 180 by EI. And you can put the values, like obviously once you have this expression you can put the actual values to find out the actual displacement. This is another example. So this is a little more complicated example. Then in the previous example there was only one point loading, one moment, concentrated moment loading. Determine the deflection of C of the beam as shown. So it has a beam, a simply supported beam with an overhang, and the overhang has a uniformly distributed load. So this is the M by moment diagram here. It is a parabola. Now this is a straight line, and this is linear part, and this is a parabola part because it has uniformly distributed load. Uh, so this is if the diagram consists of a triangular and a parabolic segment. The loading causes the beam to deform as shown here. We are required to find delta C by constructing tangents at A and at B and C. We see that delta C is TCA minus delta dash. This is delta dash here. However, delta dash can be related to. So these are all geometry. This is all you have to do. The first thing you have to do is you have to draw an intuitive deflected shape. Then you have to draw the tangents. Draw all the tangents at all the verticals and see how you can connect them geometrically. So here we get an expression delta C is TCA minus 2 TBA. Now with the moment area theorem we can find these two, and since this is a parabola, the centroid of a parabola is so it has an expression like this. If this is the parabola, then the centroid will be 38 by A, and this distance will be 58 by A. Like just like if this was a triangle, this would be A by 3, 2A by 3. Here it is 3A by 8, 5A by 8. So yes, this is our knowledge. This is something you have to know from before. That is what is being done here. To you can find out the TCA, and then you can find out the TBA, and these the terms are negative. The When the terms can be negative, you have to just substitute it algebraically, and you can find out the delta C here, which is negative here, which means that it is being deflected downwards. Is another example here. There is a simply supported beam with both sides overhang. There is a point load here. There is a concentrated moment here. We want to find out the slope at the roller B of the overhang. So M by EI diagram can be simplified by drawing it in parts. So we draw the M by EI diagram. Okay, if this is linear superposition, this example we don't have to go into. Like you can go straight forward. You can only make these quick shortcut assumptions once you have practiced a lot. So it is better to approach in a straightforward way. And this is also a similar type of question. So mostly moment area theorem mostly, so that you can apply it, you need practice. And the most, see, the area, finding the BMD and finding the applying the theorem to get the moment of the MBI diagram is a mechanical process. It is easy. What you have to do is you have to know how, you have to figure out the relationships between the quantity you are asked to find and the quantities you can get from moment area theorem. So for that, what is needed is you have to start by drawing all the tangents at all the possible points, like all the support points or all the points which are relevant to you. You will draw all the tangents or draw all the verticals. You will have a geometric shape. From that, generally, you will be able to figure out how you can arrive at the quantity that is being asked. But that can only come through practice. It is not as easy as like drawing bending moment diagram, shear force diagram. All of that, what that we have done previously, is a straightforward process. If you have a beam, if you have the loading and the boundary condition, you will be able to draw the BMD if you know the method. If you can solve a free body diagram, but here you have to. Some tricks are involved, but by practice it wouldn't be that easy, difficult either. There are some examples and the slides are uploaded, and you have access to the Google Drive, so you can take a look at these examples and see if you can solve them on your own. So next class we will look at the conjugate beam method. That is also a method that is used for the, like, it is also very similar to the moment area theorem. It is basically the moment area theorems in a put in a different kind of tone, but ultimately the answers from all of these methods will be the same. Okay. Are there any questions?
Ma'am, I have one doubt, ma'am.
Yes.
What is the name of the book, ma'am, you followed? Please, moment area method or something like that.
Oh, okay. So there is a one book by Hilbert, I think. Like structure.
Ma'am, sorry.
1 second. This book, Structure Analysis by Russell C. Hibler. I'll write it in the
Okay.
chat. or I can.
Okay. Kipler, ma'am.
Yes, yes, Hibler. It is a very, very detailed book and all the question, like the question
Oh,
can solve problems. So if you see the chapters there, you will be able to solve mostly everything.
one more thing, madam. There is a assignment question, ma'am.
Okay,
They are giving the bending moment diagram.
okay,
What should be the load is acting? Like that, they are asking the question, ma'am. How to find? There are several possibilities, is madam.
yes.
Yeah, I have find difficult, ma'am, to find the exact answer, ma'am. Can
There
you
is
teach
actually
me?
no. I think there can, if there is no exact answer, can you find at least one loading pattern which fits that bending moment diagram?
Oh,
I mean, any one, like just like in design, there can be no one unique answer. I think here
oh,
also there could be a unique answer, but if you can find only one answer, that one loading pattern, that should be enough. Can you have you been able to do that?
okay, ma'am. Do it, madam. Try it.
Okay, okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Ma'am, please explain the moment area method, theorem 1 and theorem 2. One time, please. In short, in short.
Okay, okay. So this is the moment area theorem one. You have a point A. You have 2 points in the intermediate of the beam length B and C. So what you do is you draw a tangent at B and you draw a tangent at C. So
Okay.
the tangent at B has it's a straight line. It has some inclination with the horizontal. The beam was originally this ABCD entire line was horizontal. So that is the original configuration. Then the tangent at B has some angle it is forming with the horizontal. That is called the slope of B, theta B. And similarly, the tangent at C has some angle with the horizontal that is called theta C. So this is how slope is defined. Now the moment area theorem here, the first moment says that the slope of B minus the slope of C that is equal to the now this this beam will have some bending moment diagram. So you have the bending moment diagram. You divide the magnitude, the overall you scale the bending moment diagram down by EI. So you divide it by EI and the area of the curve between A between B to C that is equal to theta B minus theta C. So what we did here was if I want the slope at A minus the slope at C, then I just have to find out this area of this trapezium. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. And similarly for theorem 2 is a little more complicated. It says that I have a tangent at C. I extend this tangent here and I have some point B whose deflected point is this point. So the deflected point of the point B and its vertical distance up to the tangent of C, this quantity I defined as this delta B slash C or T B slash C. And how do we find that quantity? It is that I have to take the moment of this M by EI diagram between B and C about B. This sounds very complicated, but and this sounds like what will I do with this quantity? What will I do? Why the hell am I finding out a quantity which is the distance between a deflected point and a tangent I'm drawing here? But the point is, if I have this quantity, I can use it geometrically to find out this deflection also. So that is why this is useful for us. So here, if I want to find the tangent at C and the deflected shape, the deflect here A is not deflecting at all because it is a in support. So the this quantity T A slash B, sorry T
Okay.
A slash B, that is the from B I have drawn a tangent and
Okay.
and this is the deflected point of A here is the same as the original A point. So this T A slash B quantity is equal to the moment of this M by EI diagram about this point A.
Okay.
So that is all the moment, that is all the theorem says, that is all that the theorem says. Now once I have these information that I can get this difference in slope between 2 points, I can have some of these quantities like this tab I can ta slash b I can solve, this tc slash b I can solve. From those I have to somehow manipulate into getting the actual deflection at whichever point I want.
Okay, ma'am. In real life, where to be used? And practically, where to use?
Practically, you have to use in the sense if you have a beam, you you know, suppose you have a beam. Look at whichever room you are in. Look at there are beams on the roof, on the ceiling. So
Yes.
there are deflection criteria, serviceability criteria, that the beam cannot deflect beyond this point. Any point, suppose the midpoint of the beam cannot deflect beyond 5 millimeter. That is a serviceability criteria which are found in the Indian standard codes. So
Yes, I.
hmm. So that is why the deflected to getting the deflected profile of all my structural elements is relevant to us. Whether it be a beam or a column or a truss, I need to know what the deflected shape is. Then I need to carry out the serviceability checks to see that okay, are all the deflections between our limits. So that is why we need this. And the moment area method is simply a tool to find out the deflected shape, deflected deflection at any point.
Like Macaulay's method.
Macaulay's method is also basically it is a double differential equation method, double integration method, like we did here. Macaulay's method is almost similar to this, right? It does this double integration itself.
Yes, double integration.
Yes, so
And it
that is from the first principle. It will give you the entire deflected shape, but moment area method is a shortcut, so we get the deflected shape only at certain points. So sometimes it is that only these points are relevant to us. I don't need the entire deflected shape. Sometimes it can happen. So that is why it is relevant. It is useful to learn those methods. We don't always have to solve the entire structure. Just like in method of joints, we find out the member forces in the entire truss. But
entire joint.
yeah, but
Yes.
for method of sections, it like I just cut a section and find the member forces in certain two three members. So like that.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Okay.
So it is easy or a conjugate beam method easy, ma'am? Moment area method easy or conjugate beam method?
See, momentary and conjugate beam are actually basically identical. The
Okay.
way the conjugate beam method is set up, it is so that it is in an easier and more intuitive manner. You can get the values with the same values which you will get from the momentary method. So it is up
Okay.
to you. Once you know the conjugate beam method, it is up to you which one you are more comfortable using. I personally use this method more, momentary method, but conjugate beam method is also easy enough to apply.
Okay. Okay. In various syllabus, moment area method is given, but conjugate beam method is not given. That's why I'm asking to you.
Okay. But they are equivalent methods. You will get exactly the same answers from both of them. So you didn't. There can be 10 methods for solving a single problem, but they won't teach you all the methods in every course. You just need to know enough to get the problem solved.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then we'll meet next class with the conjugate beam method. That is also a method to get the deflected profile of beam.
Okay, madam.
Thank you. I'm ending the class then.
Okay, madam. Thank you.